Hello and welcome to EVA India Insights podcast. I'm Pallavi, your host for today, and we're joined by Parag Mehta, partner at EVA India in strategy and transactions. Parag advises senior leadership teams on valuation and purchase price allocation in complex M&A transactions with a strong focus on financial reporting, regulatory considerations, and long-term value creation. In this episode, we'll discuss how Indian firms approach purchase price allocation and why it has become a strategic consideration for finance leaders involved in M&A. So Parag, thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Pallavi. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So, Parag, to start off with a very basic question for many of our listeners, purchase price allocation can sound quite technical. So, could you briefly explain what purchase price allocation means? And is it just an accounting requirement or does it go beyond that?
Good starting point, Pallavi. Purchase price allocation or PPA comes from Ind AS 103 on business combination, which requires the acquirer to recognize the assets and liabilities of the acquired business at their fair values. While it's often looked at as an accounting exercise, it actually has a much wider implications. It can influence future earnings, how the balance sheet looks, and in some cases, even lead to meaningful tax benefits. So it's definitely more than just a compliance requirement.
Thank you, Parag. That's interesting. Now, if you could also help us understand a bit more on how purchase price allocation decisions really play out in future, say from a valuation or a tax perspective.
Sure. When finite life intangible assets are recognized as part of PPA, those assets needs to be amortized over a fixed period, and that directly impacts future earnings per share. On the other hand, indefinite life intangibles and goodwill don't impact earning through amortization, but they do carry impairment risk and affect return ratios over time. This becomes relevant, especially for investors who may be looking at an exit in next few years. From tax perspective, depending on how the acquisition is structured, companies may be able to claim tax benefit on recognized intangibles like brands and intellectual property. These benefits translate into real cash flow savings and can even influence how the bidder prices a deal.
Thank you, Parag. Now, EY analysis also shows a clear differences in how values get allocated across industries. So, why do sectors like consumer, pharma, and IT typically see higher allocations to intangible assets while more capital intensive sectors don't?
It depends on what drives value in a particular business. In sectors like consumer, pharma, and IT, the key value drivers tend to be brands, intellectual properties, technology, and distribution network. Naturally, that leads to a higher allocation to intangible assets. In contrast, in asset-heavy industry such as real estate, capital goods, or mining, the physical assets play a much more dominant role.
Thank you, Parag. Now, lastly, given how critical the outcome of a purchase price allocation exercise can be, what should Indian firms acquire focus on to ensure their PPAs are robust and defensible?
It's an important question, Pallavi. A robust and defensible PPA is crucial, especially given the significant accounting impact and the level of scrutiny it can face from regulators and tax authorities. Beyond using the right valuation methodologies and assumptions, it is equally important that PPA outcome aligns with the nature of the business and strategic rationale behind the acquisition. This is where experience really matters and where early involvement of valuation experts can make a big difference.
Sure, Parag. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining and sharing such clear and strategic perspectives on purchase price allocation.
Thank you, Pallavi. It was a pleasure discussing this.
And thank you to all our listeners for joining us on EY India Insights. We look forward to bringing you more leadership focused conversations soon. Until next time, this is Pallavi signing off.